Hey, Geekscapists, welcome to our brand new Geekscape podcast. I'm Jonathan London, your host. And if this is your first Geekscape, strap yourselves in for some pop culture talk. Movies, video games, comic books, TV, all that pop culture goodness. I hope you've been enjoying Geekscape the last couple of weeks. We've really been throwing it at you quite a bit. We had my good friend Drew Selden on the show last week to talk about the upcoming con schedule. We're going to be at Comic-Con Revolution here in less than 2 weeks, seeing what everything is that he's got going on over there, including the cast reunion of Smallville. Mark Bagley, who is one of my top Spider-Man artists, and let's talk, is he top 5 Spider-Man artists, top 10? I think he's definitely top 10. Maybe you have him in the top 5. Regardless, we're going to be talking about one of his creations today on the show because he's one of the co-creators of the Thunderbolts. And today, Ian Kerner is going to join me. We're going to talk all about this brand new Marvel movie, Thunderbolts, with an asterisk, and why. So if you haven't watched Thunderbolts, you're going to get it super spoiled for you. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you might want to see Thunderbolts before you listen to the rest of this. We are going to buffer it a bit as we go through a little special segment here in the beginning. Our good friend Christian Blatt of the Blattcast and Marvel Movie Talk shared with the chat. That's Ian, Justin, and us. He shared his Star Wars order, like top Star Wars, and I thought it was first off, Ian just responded LOL. I think his response was what the F, but he's like, okay, if that's your Star Wars order, sure. And I had asked Ian over the weekend, I said, okay, well, like, what's your top Star Wars? Right, we're all watching Andor right now. Star Wars is definitely on all our minds. And Ian said, well, I think it's a discussion. I don't know if he's not a list guy. I'm not a list guy either, but we definitely are going to see where we would put the Star Wars stuff as far as the movies go, and use Christian's weird ass list as a bouncing off point. So that's going to come before we talk Thunderbolt. So the spoilers are going to start yet if you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, maybe on Facebook or LinkedIn, then cool, you're in the right spot. We're going to talk Star Wars lists, then we're going to talk Thunderbolts. Ian's going to join me for that. Also hope you guys enjoyed the Jeremy Miller episode. That was great to have Jeremy over here and talk to you guys. We're hoping to see him at the San Diego Comic-Con booth. There's just a bunch of awesome stuff coming in this summer, so please subscribe to the show, share the show with your friends, share the other Geekscape shows with your friends. And if you're going to be in San Diego Comic-Con, come visit the booth. If you're hearing what sounds like a small child, an infant, just off camera, yep, you got it. Ophelia is co-hosting tonight off camera. She is googling and goggling right off camera, my little monkey, and it's adorable. And I love you guys. It's hard to do Geekscapes when I have this wonderful little baby in my life. And not that I don't want to spend time with you guys, but hey, this kid is amazing. And I'm bringing her audibly to you. All right, let's start the show. I love that you're here, guys. Let's start the show, and then let's talk Star Wars and Thunderbolts in that order, okay? All right, Geekscape. Oh, bye, Ophelia. If you're watching this live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or I guess LinkedIn, you just saw Ophelia fly out of the frame. It's dinner time. She's got to go eat. All right, let's get it together. Big shout out to my friend George Pepe in Kansas City. I know he's watching. And he also said, hey, where are my comics? Here are the Prophecy comic. Well, if you ordered them signed, we just got them signed before Paul went to Mexico City to wrestle for a bit, and I got to put those in the mail. Okay, busy. But if they're unsigned that you ordered, Those should be in the mail or headed in the mail. I know I've mailed out the majority of those. So if you ordered signed copies, those are hitting the mail. I'm going to try and get them in the next week. All right. I need to print the things and do the envelopes. Okay. Got it. Running a little comic factory over here. Okay. We're going to talk Star Wars, an order of Star Wars. Would you guys have a list? If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, do you guys have a Star Wars favorite list? Like, what is your number one Star Wars, and then rank them down? Okay, we're going to do that. But real quick, I got to have Ian over here. We got to catch up with Ian real quick. Ian, thanks for doing this with me, dude.
Sure.
This is really funny. I got to retell the story from Free Comic Book Day since I'm talking about the comics. But Ian and Stephanie, his wife Stephanie, have this friend Mark Guggenheim. He's currently writing a Star Wars book for Marvel, and Mark was doing a signing at Free Comic Book Day. And when the comic got published, the Hero of the Prophecy comic that we have here at Geekscape, I went out and gave it to all our favorite retailers here in LA, and just said, hey, if you want to do a signing with my brother, this and this, let's here's my comic. Maybe later on with issue 2 or 3, you can do a signing or something. I can bring my brother in to do it. And so I gave the comic as a gift to several retailers here in the LA area. I walk into one of the retailers on Saturday to enjoy Free Comic Book Day and also meet Mark Guggenheim, because Ian talks about Mark a lot, and I'd love to meet Mark. And I did. I walked in to meet him. But as I'm walking into the store, something weird happens. I walk in, and on a shelf for sale is the copy of Hear the Prophecy that I gave to that store and the owner as a gift. That wasn't for sale, man. That was a gift. I gave it to you as a gift. You put it up for sale. Tried to make a buck off of something that didn't cost you a buck. I didn't sell it to you to resell. I didn't sell it to you at all. I gave it to you as a gift. Now you turned around and you tried to flip it just for $5. It's a $5 comic, and I trusted you, and you went to sell it. So this is what I did. I said, oh, that's funny. That shouldn't be there. And I took it off the shelf in front of the employee, and I said, let me sign it anyway. And I go and I get a pen from Mark Guggenheim where he's signing. Haven't met him yet. I just went, hey, can I borrow this? I sign it to Mark, Jonathan, and I give it to Mark Guggenheim, and I turn to the employee and I say, yeah, that wasn't for sale. And now it's Mark's copy of Hear the Prophecy. And I hope Mark enjoys it. Hopefully Mark can come on the show. Maybe he should come on soon to talk about the Star Wars comic that he's got launched here at Marvel. But that was a what the F moment that I just had to text Ian about and be like, dude, that was weird. I met Mark, though. Dude.
I'm sure he laughed.
He did. He laughed. That was not... Did I handle it right, Geekscapists? I don't know. All right. Here. Let's reset. Let's talk Star Wars real quick. We got Derpy Entertainment on the YouTube saying, hey, wait, hold up. For a non-Marvel glazer, that's perspective isn't biased to Marvel movies. This movie was great, talking about the Thunderbolts, and much better story and characters than Cap 4. It was an 8 out of 10. The ending was weak for me, though. Derpy, I love that you're in the comment saying that. We'll see if Ian and I's opinions reflect what you just said, because there's a movie that we definitely have feelings about. But real quick, let's bring up Christian Blatt's top Star Wars list, and you guys can see it's a little unhinged in some places, okay? But this is Christian Blatt's top Star Wars list, and I don't mean to put him on blast, but Christian did this publicly. Like, you see that he shared this at Christian DMZ. This wasn't just a private conversation he had with us. This is a screen grab of something that he had shared publicly on Threads or Twitter or Instagram. And Ian, look at this list.
My comment was, I'm not really a list person generally, but there's no world anywhere where Return of the Jedi is one. There's no.
Okay, Ian. What if you only acknowledge the Holy Trilogy, the main 3 films, as I do? A lot for me falls off after the first 3 films. I'm going to throw some movies up there that are close to the original 3 movies. He does a good job of that. He throws Rogue One right up there. I would throw Rogue One right up there.
Yeah, Rogue One's
that's the one that I would put close. Force Awakens, that stuff's right. I think his 5 and 6 are pretty. No. I would move 5, Rogue One. I would move that to 4. I would move 6 to 5. The Force Awakens is kind of 5-ish. No, it would have to go up against Revenge of the Sith. But keep in mind, I don't know, man. The top 3 are the top 3. The top 3 should be what he's got. There's no argument with the top 3. Is there an argument with the top 3?
Not the order.
No. the order's wrong. It should
Right.
be Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. We are in agreement. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie.
Right. Now,
it's A
if
New
someone
Hope.
wants to argue The New Hope over Empire, it's not a better movie, but it does so many things. I definitely get that. And when I was young, I would have said that.
Yeah.
I would literally put them in order. I would
yet.
have said New Hope, Empire, and Jedi. And as I got older, I said Empire is a better movie.
Yep, Empire's a better movie.
When I was young, I would have been like, Empire just feels like it's this placeholder thing. It starts in the middle of the story. It ends in the middle of the story. It doesn't really exist on its own. That's an argument that I buy as a criticism of Empire. But Jedi's just and Jedi. I mean, I love Jedi.
Jedi's fun.
But I think your point resonates, which is when you're a parent and you're watching these things with kids.
We made this point off the podcast, folks, but I did text Ian and said, hey, if you're a parent and your kid likes it, it does add some enjoyment. So I can see Revenge of the Sith up there, because maybe for his kids,
Jedi, the Ewoks and the Goofy Band, things like that. I get it.
There are a lot of people who love the prequels because they were kids when they saw them. They're a generation behind you and I, Ian. And
I've heard that argument before.
That was their entry to Star Wars. All I can say is it's not a good entry to Star Wars. The prequels are like set up for the first. There were no twists and turns. I feel like the prequels are just a ball being pulled from A to B, and I don't think that's fair to the standard that was set up in the Holy Trilogy, where you get a huge twist in Empire, you get a lot of like pathos in Jedi, you get a beautiful new world in A New Hope. I think they should have striven to give us something new in the prequels that changed our thinking even more of Star Wars, and then the sequels are the sequels.
I mean, I think we and I have probably had this conversation numerous times. I look at the prequels, particularly, really all of them. It's from a political standpoint, if you wanted to, and politics was one of my majors in college. It's kind of brilliant. And I mean, there's a lot of jokes going on these days about that opening scroll of Phantom Menace and how it feels like current politics, But again, it's brilliant. Conversations about tariffs, all that stuff. It's really, really smart. As a movie, I remember coming out of Phantom Menace going like, so wait, let me get this straight. The whole big overriding mystery of this whole trilogy is going to be the thing that we actually already know, that who is the big bad guy, and we know that it's Palpatine. And they actually act. I remember having a fight, and I think I've talked on the show about this before. But I had an argument with my cousin who doesn't know other thing, didn't know expanded universe stuff and toys and things like I do. Who like, where does it say that Palpatine is the master? I'm like, it's just one of those things as a fan. That he is. It was an actual argument we had. Yeah. Because it was just set up as this revisionist thing of, well, this is episode 1 and it's all going to lead into it. So you don't know yet. And there's a brilliance to that, but it doesn't necessarily make it engaging. However, coming to your point, if you didn't see the other movies and you just started with that, how do you feel? I'm not sure.
It kind of takes the rug out from under Empire, and the biggest reveal of our childhoods is in cinema.
It does. It's literally the whole, you already know all of this. It's a given.
And that is the moment of the Star Wars series. And sadly, Geekscape it came in the second iteration, the second release of the Star Wars series, and it came in 1980. And since then, we haven't had anything as monumental as engaging as Luke, I'm your father.
To your point, when New Hope comes out, and Darth Vader's just like, he's this bruiser. He's an enforcer guy, right?
But he's also a samurai, and they fight like samurai. But then my one strike against Rogue One is that ending with Vader. He's suddenly looking like a video game, and he's twirling and stuff. And I'm like,
my point about New Hope is when you're watching New Hope for the first time, Tarkin's the leader. They reference the Emperor, but Tarkin's clearly the leader. Holding his Vader's leash, just like Leia says. And Vader's just he's just a warrior. You don't think he's like the number 2 guy in the Empire. He's just this warrior enforcer dude, right?
Yeah.
But he's the bad guy, and he's the one that killed Obi-Wan. So you kind of go into Empire with Luke has to ultimately fight Vader. That's the expectation, and it's just especially and Vader killed his father. He's the other warrior, but he's the one that killed his father. Luke's Inigo Montoya.
Yeah, good point.
Like that's the expectation you expect. And I think, did you send it? There was an article recently that
politics of
Lucas's
Star Wars.
ex-wife was talking about how it was a joke. The idea of Vader being Luke's father was a joke that came up at a dinner party. It
And they
didn't
went
start
with it.
that way. Yeah, and they went with it.
Yeah.
But so to your point, when you think about this new, revisionist history that came about by creating those prequels the way they do, yeah, it completely changes the feel of both A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Because right away in A New Hope,
but it doesn't add anything.
No,
but sadly, it doesn't add anything.
When you see Vader yelling at Leia, it's like that's your daughter. You don't even know it. Like it does all these things.
The detraction, I think, is what it ends up doing, and I can't forgive it that.
Yeah, it makes them listen. I've always said watch all the movies, but you watch them in the order they came out, not in the order that Luke intends them.
Yeah, I was giving that advice to someone a week or two ago. He's like, "Hey, my cousin's never seen them in order," and I said, "You got to watch everything in release order. You got to experience them as we did."
Well, by the way,
stop at Jedi.
There's knowing jokes. There's lines. There's things like, "Oh, I think one of these days you'll be the death of me." It's things like that because they expect you to know, and those lines don't land. But honestly, it actually hurts the prequels more, in my opinion. For me, I actually enjoy the prequels more weirdly knowing that stuff than if I didn't, I think.
And the sequels are just the sequels. And
the sequels are just the sequels,
he threw the Ewok movies in here, which is cute. The holiday special he threw in here. And I think he did both of those just to basically show you that The Last Jedi is dead last.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Derpy Entertainment did a similar list. They're on
but
YouTube.
he left he left Clone Wars out.
He did leave you left Clone Wars out, and that is Gordy Tarkovsky, is that right? He's amazing.
No. Genndy Tarkovsky.
Genndy.
He did the first Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
The second Clone Wars series that Dave Filoni was involved
Launched with the movie.
Launched with the movie.
Okay. That belongs in there. Where would you put that on the list, Ian?
Again, I saw that in the theater.
Better than prequels? Under prequels?
Better. But I remember feeling annoyed at Ahsoka. And it's generally how I feel. I rewatched that series with my stepson a couple years ago.
The Ahsoka series or Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars.
Okay.
And, it starts off, initially the expectation is Ahsoka is just this character that's you think is just there to appeal to kids that can't possibly live because, well, where's Ahsoka in the movies, And yet, little did we know, they had an out for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it was 2 series in, but they had an out for that.
They did, yeah. They got it in Rebels.
So, it's interesting. I had an interesting conversation earlier today talking about just how expansive the canon stuff is, Anyway, this is a nice little aside. I do think we wanted to talk Marvel,
We do. And I think Derpy Entertainment just threw out Last Jedi is last, so they're there. And then, threw the Revenge of the Sith up there in that first top 3, made Revenge of the Sith second.
Listen, and by the way, and there are a lot of debates about
They've re-released it. Yeah.
Last Jedi is polarizing for a reason. Ultimately, my feeling about Last Jedi, and my wife doesn't agree. She really likes Last Jedi because all the things it does, I just think don't belong in the main franchise. Do it as a side movie. You want to deconstruct everything, great, but don't do it here. And listen, the bottom line about the sequel trilogies is just the lack of consistency and vision is problematic. If you did all of them with one vision, great. But
I gotta tell
you have one vision, you have another vision, and then you have something trying to reconcile it all and not necessarily succeeding.
Although I never watched the movies twice, like I enjoyed Last Jedi more than Rise of Skywalker, if only for it wanting to break things and break conventions and stuff like that. I thought was, I don't think it was entirely successful, but I was like, oh, I get why you're doing that. You have to shake something up. You cannot have
I was upset the first time I watched it twice in the theater because I thought a lot of people liked it, so I had to go back. And going in the second time, knowing they'd already done it, I was more accepting of it on its own for what it was and everything you just said, and enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then then the Rise of Skywalker just throws it all back into place.
Yeah.
It's
Rise of Skywalker comes out, and that movie's just, it's like a patchwork quilt. It's like all over and trying to do so much, and it's a mess. But because it does try to right the ship, it just completely invalidates Last Jedi, so it just makes it like less than, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. There's a part of me that when the prequels came out, there's a dream I have where Lucas says, "Okay, this is where I'm at in my career. I haven't directed since the first movie. I'm going to produce these films, and I'm going to give one to Ron Howard. I'm going to give one to Spielberg, and maybe I'll give one to that upstart, Peter Jackson or Guillermo del Toro, or so. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to give one to these guys. Maybe Fincher will get one of these things, or somebody like a late '90s decision. Like, who are these guys in the late '90s who should do a Star Wars movie? And Ron Howard will be in there, and Spielberg will be in there, and maybe not Joe Johnston, but Joe Johnston's definitely part of that group. And these guys, like, who gets
would have made a great Star Wars film.
Who gets the prequels if Lucas doesn't do it? And then, like, can we find I think that I'm excited that coming out of Star Wars Celebration Tokyo that we are still talking about a Taika Waititi, and the screenwriters, amazing screenwriters, and I'm like, wow, we're still going to get these unique perspectives on Star Wars. That's what I'm most excited about. And yeah, but that's Christian's list. It gave us a docking off points, Geekscape. I hope you enjoyed that. Please comment with your lists. Send them to me at jonathan@geekscape.net. We'll talk them over. What I love the most is we can hash this all out. That's what Geekscape's all about. Okay, let's talk the Thunderbolts. Let's talk these Thunderbolts. Ian, on the comic page, who are the Thunderbolts? Are they just the Suicide Squad for Marvel? Let's be real.
So, something that really I thought was really interesting in the credits is they actually gave credit to Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley.
Yep.
Which is a really weird thing to do, considering the only thing that the movie has to do with their team, their creation, Thunderbolts, is the name.
Mm-hmm.
So in the comics, the first Thunderbolts comic came out at a time when Marvel had basically done this weird licensing thing where they kind of pulled, Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee had these big careers at Marvel, went off and made their own books and Image, and Marvel did this little thing where it was the sales were hurting, so they actually handed the Avengers and Fantastic Four and the Hulk
and Iron Man,
Marvel for a period, and had them do it. And the way they did it is they did it off the Onslaught storyline, where basically Franklin Richards created this pocket universe,
and that was the Heroes Reborn stories.
Exactly. So they did that. And so in the proper Marvel universe, in the 616, these heroes were missing. And within this pardon the sort of pun, void, suddenly these heroes show up called the Thunderbolts. They had a quick appearance in an issue of the Hulk, and then they end up in their own book. And in those days, people were actually able to keep a secret. And Kurt Busiek's gone on to say, like, he was really uptight about this. But the giant reveal at the end of the first double-sized issue is that the Thunderbolts are the masters of evil in disguise.
Yeah,
duping everyone to think that they're heroes, but they're actually bad guys.
Yeah, who's on that team beyond Baron Zemo? It's
Atlas, who grew like Goliath, or Giant Man, Screaming Mimi, Moonstone, and Fixer was Tech now.
Yeah.
Oh, and Beetle.
And they're not acting like they're just acting like they're like new heroes that'll replace the
Avengers.
All
acting like they're new heroes, but
they were villains the whole freaking time. Yeah. That reveal was badass.
But then the twist was, as they're acting like heroes for a while, most of them actually like being heroes, and they turn on Zemo. Hawkeye ends up coming in and running the team for a while.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay, and we maybe we'll go back to those characters in a bit, but.
Especially because the ending of this movie is a press conference.
Wait.
We'll get to that.
Wait. So then,
which I thought was genius. I yelled out loud.
A little later in comics, that there was a storyline where Norman Osborn had taken control, of what was S.H.I.E.L.D. and changed the name, whatever. And
post the Skrull invasion.
Yes, post Secret Invasion, and they had, there was Secret Invasion, there was Siege, there was all these things. And he came up with his own Avengers team. So that was Dark Avengers. Okay. And he's bringing his own version of existing heroes. So, he had Sentry was on that team, Arrow was on that team.
Daken was Wolverine.
Wait. So he said Wolverine because Wolverine had been a member of the New Avengers. So he said Wolverine, and Wolverine's classic brown costume, but it was Daken, right?
Daken, yeah, his son.
His Spider-Man was actually Matt Gargan, who had been Scorpion, had gotten the Venom symbiote. So he was Spider-Man. Moonstone was posing as Captain Marvel. So Bullseye was posing as Hawkeye.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. So basically, and so they were the Dark Avengers. But they're calling themselves Avengers, they didn't call themselves the Dark Avengers.
And they were actual villains as well.
They were actually villains, yes.
So what did you think when you started seeing the Thunderbolts cast, but it was the heroes that were kind of, besides Ghost and besides Taskmaster?
Listen, they're all technically villains, right?
Even John Walker? Sure.
Yeah, so John Walker was tricky. John Walker was similar to what they did in Falcon Winter Soldier. There was a period where the government kind of took Captain America away from Steve Rogers, and they made John Walker it. But John Walker had his problems. He got his powers from, what's his name? The power broker.
Mm-hmm.
And he had issues. He went bad a little bit. He had opportunities.
Ivan Soto says, Walker was definitely a villain. We saw him kill an innocent man in public in Falcon Winter Soldier, which is brought up in this movie.
Yeah, look, and Yelena, Yelena's the only one that's lightly debatable. Obviously she's a Black Widow, she's killing people, but I feel like the MCU never really presented her as a villain, whereas the comics did.
And Bucky got redeemed-ish.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. Yeah. So Winter Soldier started in the comics bad guy. The movies did a great job of Winter Soldier. They basically did pretty much the same thing, the same story as in the comics, right? And Yelena was initially, she came after Natasha.
Yeah.
To kill her. They're not sisters in the comics. They're like sisters, but by the way, really, they're not biological sisters either. They were just adopted sisters, whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is that I think Yelena is actually a lot more, you relate to Yelena more, you sympathize with her. I think Yelena has pretty much from the start, you like Yelena, you never see her as a bad guy. Mm-hmm. But technically, she's a bad guy getting redeemed, right? And that was the idea of what your Thunderbolts became under Hawkeye, who also, I don't know if not a lot of people know
as the villain.
Yeah, Hawkeye started as a dupe. Black Widow was a bad guy looking to steal secrets from Tony Stark, from Iron Man, and got Hawkeye to help her.
Okay.
Because she was a Black Widow.
But he was trained by the Swordmaster and was also a villain when he first met the Avengers.
But still, pretty much right after that first appearance of Hawkeye, Tony Stark's like, no, you could be redeemed. You mean well. And basically, when the original Avengers leave and it's just Cap's kooky Cortez, it's Captain America redeeming Hawkeye, and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver had been part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but they wanted to be good. They were always conflicted. They weren't bad, but they were, Magneto had kind of bullied them, was the way the stories had gone. Mm-hmm. So that was Hawkeye's original thing. So with this opportunity with the Thunderbolts, that they all wanted to be good, he said, I'm going to come over and help them and redeem them. And by the way, Songbird has remained a hero.
Yeah.
She still pops up all the time. So,
well, the movie does cast Yelena as a villain. Like, Ivan also reminded us that Yelena did a lot of evil under Val, and I thought that was a great opening where she's almost bored and tired of the rote life of being an assassin, blindly killing people.
I think that's the point. The point is that even what she's doing there, it's just what she's been doing, and maybe she could be more or better. I don't want to say she's amoral. She's not thinking about it. That's the whole thing. The movie opens up with her going there to clean out. And it's the Sentry project.
Yeah, and the clues are all there, and I thought it was awesome how you see the void clues as well, and that sequence was cool. What did you think of that article that I sent you? I know Christian crapped on it, but the idea that this is a movie on a meta level about the like when you meet Yelena and she's tired of this life, she's got these kind of routine things that she goes through as an assassin. Are we talking about superhero movies where they are now, and how these are rejected and cast off in the way that maybe the box office and maybe the Disney
I
Plus
like
has
the article
been?
and the points a lot.
I do too.
I think it's smart.
So it's almost meta what this movie's about, and then it redeems the whole genre.
This movie was made at a time where the Marvel movies have already become not anywhere near the level they're at. It's fully self-aware. Saying it's not is just not true. It is absolutely aware of what the marketplace has become. It's absolutely aware. As I remember when Endgame came out, and I had this conversation, I think you and I talked about it, but another friend of mine, I talked about how, all right, it's now B level. Like, what do you get? You know, I mean, in fairness, when the MCU started, I mean, people forget that most people viewed, Spider-Man and X-Men were the A-list. And even as comic fans, we knew the Avengers and Fantastic Four were, and again, Fantastic Four also was included, right? But, really the Avengers were it was the movies made them a more popular comic again. They're always up there, but not since the 70s.
Not only were the Avengers not A-list, Marvel Publishing, to get the investment for Feige to get the loan to make those first couple Avengers movies, he had to go to the publishing and have Spider-Man and Wolverine added to the Avengers teams as the new Avengers, so that the sales could get boosted, so he could then look at the sales for Avengers that were behind Spider-Man and X-Men, take that to Hollywood and say, look, Avengers sells. Let's get the money for Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Avengers, Iron Man 2, which were part of that first Paramount deal. Or that only happened because publishing put Spider-Man and X and Wolverine, the top sellers above Avengers, onto the Avengers team to boost the publication.
And it's a weird thing as a comic fan, because in terms of hierarchy of power and respect within the comics, it was no question, it was Fantastic Four and Avengers. And, Spider-Man is street level, X-Men are kind of the outcasts, but it was definitely that. But yeah, in terms of popularity with public, it was a risk.
Yeah. So what do you think of this movie where suddenly you get these rejects? And I was feeling a bit of fatigue with the Val storyline coming out of Wakanda Forever, coming out of where we'd seen her. I felt like this character was there, but didn't really have the oomph. And then suddenly these pieces are coming together in a great way.
So here was my thing. And this is and it's not just this. I have the same issue with what's coming up with Fine Doomsday, all of it, the multiverse stuff. And this is tricky. I didn't have fatigue with it. I felt like it's just they're laying these breadcrumbs and they're taking so long to connect these dots, right?
Well, some of it's fatigable because they added adamantium for some reason to Cap 4. Cap 4 felt...
That's different.
I mean...
You and I are agreeing that. There was no point in that. None at all.
But here...
That's a different conversation.
I turned to my friend...
Valve thing of it.
I turned to my friend DJ in like 15 minutes into this movie, and he was sitting on the other side of me, and I said, dude, what's hit me the hardest in this film is just how cohesive it is, as opposed to what we've been getting.
Yeah, for me, this movie and the Val stuff in particular, it redeemed the waiting. It redeemed all those breadcrumbs, and here it is, and this was great. And it did a great job of kind of it didn't just give us the breadcrumbs. We didn't see some of it, and that's perfectly fine.
It gave us the damn cake.
The fact that there was a bunch of time, it's been a while where we didn't get it, and it's similar to what I said. We had Jonathan's not up to date on Andor. All I will say is Andor season 1 is Andor season 2. Really did this in season 1, but it's just less so in season 2. The idea of, what, in season 1 you got 4 different adventures he went on in the year. Now you're only going to get 1, and they're just referencing the others, and that's fine. I see it as with the MCU, they've been doing this all along. They did the same thing with Avengers, and certainly when you got Age of Ultron, it opened up, and you know what? There were other adventures they did. We just didn't see them. In the comics, you get them all, but that's the thing. It's like Doctor Who's been doing that for forever, where it's like, you only get so many of a season, but they reference other things. You just didn't see those, and that's fine, and that works. And that's important. It's the downside to what movies used to do, particularly superhero stuff. It was like, okay, here's a trilogy, and it's going to pick up exactly from where the last one left off. You only get 3. It's like, well, there's no sense of time going by,
Mm-hmm.
and you want the time to go by, because the idea is like, well, what did change, and what's the reason for another movie? TV show, maybe you see everything, right? But a movie, you don't.
I want to see Bucky's political campaign for somehow
I'm
giving the
fine
Winter
with not seeing
Soldier,
that.
like somehow giving the Winter Soldier a position in Congress, or
Look, I still can't get my brain. I mean, I don't know if the point of that was to set this up in this movie, which I feel like it might have been a better way of doing that, but it seems so silly to me.
that Bucky is now a politician, even though he was an
So
absolute Russian asset for the
he's a
majority of his
Russian
life.
asset, and he's 97 years old, whatever, 100 years old.
But it's
Like,
fun. It is kind of fun in this movie that they make fun of it,
yeah,
and they discard it very quickly.
it makes no sense, none whatsoever.
So
But this
Ian,
movie did so many things right. I thought it did
this
the Void
movie.
great.
Oh, no! It didn't just do the Sentry of the Void great, Ian. It did it better than it has ever been on the page. No offense to Paul Jenkins, no offense to Bendis, no offense to anybody who's handled this on the page, but the Sentry on the page has always had the difficulty that, yes, when the Sentry shows up, and I remember this from the very beginning when they started rumoring like, oh, this is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's last creation, and we found it in an old file cabinet. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah,
because the Sentry on the film is better than it has ever been. It works better here than it has on the page ever.
Jenkins did this really interesting thing. He had this idea where he had this character, and they were just going to retcon with a bunch of one-shots that, oh, he's been around all this time. But the interesting thing that happened, at first you thought they were just stuffing this character down our throats.
Marvel did a whole press release that this was an old character.
But it turned out that there's this weird an aspect of the character, and the fact that he's, both, the Sentry and the Void, and there's some mental manipulation, particularly in he needs to forget it in order for the Void not to be a threat, and everyone else has to forget it. It's very Brand New Day, Spider-Man, So that whole idea and doing that sort of justified the whole point of, there's a reason we don't remember it. So it was more than just, I thought it was brilliant marketing. I thought it was really interesting.
Oh, back in the day, I got all those issues. I mean, the Jay Lee artwork, just to begin with, was fantastic. But Geekscape is in the late 90s, maybe in 2000, Marvel came out with this idea that, oh, we're going to do this Sentry. We never made stories of this character, but Paul Jenkins is going to write it. Jay Lee's going to do some of the artwork. But there was a character that we found in a file cabinet that was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. It was their last creation, and we never published it, but we're going to add them to the Marvel universe.
So to be clear, not true. They just said
it was not true, but it was a great marketing gimmick. It got me to buy at least the first couple, and then I bought all of them. But by the, you start to think, hey, no, there's no way this is real. But that's the whole crux of the character, was that it existed the whole time, but everyone was forced to forget, because this character Bob, who is incredible here and was pretty cool on the page, if Bob is aware that he is the Sentry and unlocks this power of 1,000 exploding suns, which he is beyond a million, he is huge, powerful, incredibly powerful. With knowing that, it also has to bring his dark self, the Sentry, and the Sentry is equally as powerful but evil. And Heidi didn't know anything about the Sentry. She was whispering in the movie. She's like, okay, so who's Bob? And I was like, just wait. As soon as we learn that the Sentry who shows up and is being manipulated by Val has a darker self, Heidi turns to me, and she works with kids. She works with a lot of social work and psychology, and she turns to me and goes, oh my God, this movie is about the shadow self. This movie is about the darkness that we all carry within ourselves, and whether or not we can control it, unlock it, or whether, so the two wolves that you feed is this character.
But what's even
it was awesome here.
To then take that and acknowledge that every one of the other Thunderbolts, all have their own darkness, and every one of them has to face it. So the comment you said something before about this idea about maybe the end of the movie not being so great, and
I didn't say that. I like the end of the movie because it's so sharp.
No, yeah. So my struggle was, I had heard some rumors going into the movie. Okay, the rumors I had heard. And I don't know the answer to this. I heard that instead of 1, I heard 3 died. And there may or may not have been reshoots. And I'm wondering, did they not save some deaths for Doomsday?
Sure.
Okay.
Because there's a
But
whole lot of deaths that need to happen in that movie.
if they
It's got-
killed the other characters I heard, then you wouldn't have had a full squad, and so you don't end up with a new Avengers at the end of the movie. And there's definitely
Right.
a possibility that maybe there was a version of this movie where it didn't end that way.
Right.
But I think it's a better movie because you really do get to explore all that the way it is.
It was beautiful. And I'll say this, like, I don't say that a whole lot when we were talking about superhero movies, but the sequence towards the end where the only way to beat the Sentry / the Void is to save Bob from this torment that he's stuck in and starting to pull everyone else into their own torments, is to stay connected and to show some form of self-forgiveness and some form of acceptance, like, and not beat the thing to death with your fists. I thought that ending was beautiful. And like you said, Ian, it spoke to every one of these characters who had been an assassin for hire and had been a failed Captain America, had been a failure Russian super soldier, had been all these discarded things. And suddenly you have one of the best Marvel movies you got. And it's actually saying something about mental health. It's saying something about our own darkness. It's saying something about, staying together as, in friendship. And Yelena and Bob don't have a romantic relationship. They're brother and sister almost. I thought this movie did so many beautiful things. And I just, from the beginning, was like, who directed that? Turns out it was Jake Scherer who did Beef on Netflix. And I thought this guy from the beginning was kicking ass because he would do these visual handoffs, these float through the scenes. And he, it's hard to do the plate spins with all these different characters on screen at once, and they all have their different storylines and needs. And from that one scene where they're stuck in that kill room and they start realizing that they're each other's targets and that Val had set them up, he starts doing these visual handoffs as he moves from one character to another without cutting. And he does it again in the lobby of Avengers Tower. He does it several times in the movie where he says, hey, all these characters are equal, and I'm going to give them each their showcase time. And as they jump out of the back of this truck and start kicking ass in this lobby, or as they come after the Sentry, and one of the best oneers I've seen in a long time, where Sentry's just putting their asses down one after another, I'm like, oh, he's not cutting. And this is a really impressive FX shot and performance shot. And holy crap, the level of different things that have to go into this. I was so impressed by his directing. I was so impressed by his ability to balance everything. And visually, just doing those handoffs to me was super inspiring and inappropriate to what we're seeing here. He kicked ass, man. And if you see Beef on Netflix, you should have watched it. You should have seen Beef with Steven Yeun, who was the original cast for the Sentry.
Yeah, I think that Lewis Pullman did a fantastic job. I can't.
Where's he from, Ian? This Lewis Pullman, like, what was he in? Because he's incredible.
He's from Bill Pullman's loins, first of all.
but he's been acting and stuff, correct?
Yeah. So I saw him in Lessons in Chemistry, and that show is fantastic.
Heidi loved that show. I don't even know if she realized she watched the whole thing with Captain Marvel in it.
Yeah,
she loved that thing, and I don't even know if she realized that was the same dude who played Sentry. Because
you should tell her that.
This is his coming out party in Hollywood.
Fantastic in that.
This was awesome. This is as good as his father's speech in Independence Day.
Yeah, you should watch Lessons in Chemistry, John.
Yeah, no, what I caught was awesome. It looked great, and Heidi will watch these shows, and I'll come in and out, and I won't. My brain won't let me sit down and watch them unless it's 2 a.m. But it looked great, and I know it was a good story. I love those actors, but this guy, and I love Steven Yeun, but let's see what let's bring him back in the Marvel universe somewhere.
Lewis Pullman is really good, and I mean, he's definitely one to watch. He's great.
Ivan Soto's really kicking ass in the comments. He said, defeating the villain with a hug was beautiful. It's not the usual Marvel ending. No big fight, no big speeches. There were big fights for sure, Ivan. There were some amazing big fights in it. They just didn't lead to the resolution.
Listen, what's interesting is who's the villain.
Yeah. Is it Val? I mean, the ending, Val tricks them into this press conference, not unlike Baron Zemos in the comics, where she reveals the new Avengers, and then you get the Ian had been saying it on the show before, but you get this new title of the movie. We got the new Avengers, and then you get the mid-credit scene directed by the Russo brothers that talks about how Sam Wilson with his team of Avengers doesn't like that that Bucky's got an Avengers team. There's a problem with copyright there, and that's all funny, but when Bucky turns, or whoever, I think maybe Yelena turns to Val and says, "We own you now."
Yes, Yelena.
Why does she? How did they own?
Well, you have to realize that she wanted them dead because they can all reveal all
Sure.
her shenanigans.
Sure.
So now she can't kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So they own her. Her pivot to make her look good. Remember, her whole thing was, I've been putting this together for years. These are my people that I put together to create the new Avengers, and they know that's not true, so they own her.
Oh, it was great to see the actor for what's his name, the other congressman who was going after her.
Oh, I love him.
From the Shield, from the Wire.
From the Wire, and
oh my god,
and Jack Ryan, and
how badly did you want him to just say shit?
No, I didn't. I've watched him in my things. I'm blanking just because you asked.
I'm looking him up now. Wendell Pierce, of course. Wendell Pierce.
He's great. He's
okay. We got to talk about the Taskmaster of it all. How wrong? Was that wrong? Was that wrong, Ian?
Oh, I didn't send you one of the memes about there's some meme out there about the cast of Thunderbolts, and she's not even shown in the picture. Like everyone's forgotten about her now.
In that earlier kill room,
I don't send you memes anymore because you whine about them too much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
I don't send you any.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Thank you. I do appreciate that very much. So I do appreciate when I can't even watch a TV show. I do appreciate it. And throw them in that chat, and we'll be sparing, but throw them in that chat. We see them in there, and everybody. I'm okay with everybody enjoying them. The funny thing about Taskmaster, the meme that I saw was Taskmaster mimicked what's his name's ability, Foggy Nelson's ability. Because Foggy Nelson at the very beginning of Daredevil, Bullseye takes him out.
Yeah.
And now we got Taskmaster at the very beginning of that kill room sequence. Gets taken out, and you're just like, are they making room for Taskmaster proper to show up? And I don't mean that I don't like the gender swap. I like the gender swap, but
what's frustrating is that they actually the character looked like Taskmaster proper in Black Widow. So I don't think they go back that well, and they could. They definitely could. It's a different character. There's a way to write it like, oh, I like the name, I like the look, but maybe.
Doomsday and Secret War are going to shift everything. They're going to reset everything. Pacing wise, I was surprised that they spent so much time in that first silo sequence with the escaping that kill room and then escaping the silo.
But it was really good and fun. And
for team building, it was awesome. It was awesome.
And it's important, because you even have the whole commentary about these guys are getting along and they're working together. It's unbelievable that it's actually happening.
Yeah, these cast-offs that are supposed to hate each other and hate everything and have failed at everything are suddenly getting along successfully. Again, the writing was super smart.
Yeah, and I was on the edge of my seat because obviously I know who Bob is. So every time John Walker's in his face with him, I'm like, he might just tear him in half.
Yes. And you're waiting for him in that entire sequence, escaping that government facility. You're waiting for the Sentry to get ticked off. You're waiting for the Sentry to escape. You're waiting for this to happen. Even when they shoot him into the lower, atmosphere and he comes crashing down, I'm like, oh, he's going to come back as the Sentry. This is going to do it. It doesn't. It's not until it's not until Val starts trying to manipulate him and he starts to kind of turn and trust her that I thought that part was awesome too. I thought every part of in that performance, again, Pullman's performance was a big part of it, but what a carefully plotted and written movie. And again, I go back and I think how cohesive it was. I hate stepping on stuff like Cat 4, which was done in a different way. It had reshoots. It's a different type of movie. It maybe tried to be the traditional Marvel style more than it needed to be. I think we're past that. We've seen that in a lot of different movies. I think making a movie about quote unquote something is what we need now. And this movie was about so many deeper things.
This movie was smart.
It used superheroes as a metaphor, and that's what they do the best. That's what superhero movies in superheroes period do the best, is give us metaphor. And a Captain America 4 that has something like a Presidential Hulk, it could have been about the abuses of power. It could have been about rage, of course. It could have been about patriotism. I thought that when you have Isaiah Bradley putting his hands behind his back and being put on the ground, I was like, oh, this movie's going to click now, because it's about stuff that's really resonating with us right now. And the engine just never really caught with Captain 4 in that way. The cohesion of this movie, and again, crediting Jake Schreier and the writers on this one, it was such a breath of fresh air. It was so validating as a comic book fan to be enjoying a movie like this again. And now we set our sights towards the sky, Ian, because as teased in the end credits, we're moving on to the Fantastic Four. And what are your thoughts on that end credit sequence and what we got there?
So I've thought about this a lot.
Please. That's why you're here. I love it.
I think we have two possibilities in the Fantastic Four. At first, I was wondering to myself, I was like, do they just straight up lose and the world gets destroyed?
I do believe that's true.
But yes, but here's the caveat. I was thinking about, we've been talking about these movies for a long time now and what they generally do in the MCU. And I'm trying not to go down the path that we've gone down before. We think about them like comics, but they always want the movies to stand on their own. And then the tag is where you get the connective tissue.
Okay.
I think that Fantastic Four, this is purely speculation. I have not heard this from anyone else. This is not a spoiler. I think they beat Galactus in the main movie, and then in the tag, their world gets destroyed by an incursion, and they have to take off and leave. I think that tag probably wasn't filmed for FF. I think, again, it's another thing so by the way, we didn't say this. That the tag at the end of Thunderbolts after the credits, it was not filmed for Thunderbolts. It's actually a scene from Doomsday.
Which of the two tags? Definitely not the one in the shop where he's trying to get her to buy Wheaties, because that was awesome.
The second tag, directed by the Russo brothers from Doomsday. That's what it is. It's a piece of Doomsday. The same way that we got the end of Ant-Man, we got the thing, I know a guy and all that. It was right out of Civil War. It wasn't something to set it up. It was literally something from the movie.
You think we're going to watch that scene again?
I don't think we're going to watch that scene again. No, I think we're going to get something before that scene.
Okay. So, yes, no, I agree that in Doomsday, we're going to have the Fantastic Four land in the early part of that movie and be a major part of that movie, of course.
But why did they land? We have to see what happened. And that's going to, that also, I think that's probably in Doomsday. It's not in Fantastic Four. And I think we'll get a teaser of that too.
I think we're getting Hickman's stuff, man.
Yes, but we're not getting that till Doomsday.
I think that world's done. I think we're going to watch Fantastic Four, and it's going to be all hope and cheer, as we've seen in like a beautiful ideal world, and then it's going to get eaten.
No, then we're going to get the end credits, and then we're going to see it get eaten after the credits, because
by an incursion, but not by Galactus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason
I was thinking what you were saying, but then this is what I realized. I said, you know what? If it just gets eaten and that's it, and then they just leave. I mean, it's a way to go. They could just lose.
But the whole reality has to go.
Exactly.
Not just the planet.
That's right.
I get the math now. If Galactus just eats the planet, that reality still stands.
Exactly.
The whole it has to be an incursion. It can't be Galactus. So knowing that, Ian, you're now convincing me. I believe
there's an incursion, and Reed Richards figures out, oh God, he manages to save his family.
Yeah. So I believe that world is still doomed, but the whole reality is doomed.
That's right.
But Galactus is beat when Shalabal and Johnny develop a relationship.
They may go that route. Yeah.
I would say that, because you see Johnny going into the upper atmosphere and losing the ability to make flames, and what's he going to do when he falls unconscious back to Earth? I think Shalabal may be the savior there. And
the whole
thing with Surfer was his appreciation of the beauty of Earth and humanity.
And that shot, I mean, we'll get into this in a few months, but when Frankie Ray, who was Johnny's girlfriend, who also had flame powers, becomes Galactus' Herald, and Johnny goes chasing after her, she goes off into space, and she now has cosmic flames. She keeps flying, and he flames out like that and falls back down to the Earth. So it's reminiscent of that.
I'm so stoked, dude.
I would expect, Norrin Rad is touched by humanity from Alicia Masters. I would expect it's going to be Shalavala will be touched by Johnny.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe more than one way.
How dare you? This is a family show, my friend. This is a family show.
I mean, I didn't say anything that
I think that is, guys, that last trailer was so clean. The way they came home and it was so witty.
I can't wait for it.
You're late.
Yeah.
And you think for dinner, and it's like, oh, you're late, and they're sitting there, and it's like, oh my god, they're already introducing Franklin here.
Yeah, but
good because you're gonna need him in Secret War.
Because the idea is that they've been Fantastic Four for a bit.
I love it. I'm so hopeful for that movie. Fine. I'm so enthused.
I think it's gonna be great, but then that's my point. My point is that you can't end that movie on the incursion because then that ties that movie into the rest, and they don't do that.
Okay, so they beat
Galactus. Comic fans were used to that, but they don't do that in their main portion of the movie. So they'll do it in the tag.
They win. We get the fanfare again. Fantastic Four. We get that.
Yeah, and then you'll probably see something like Reed's like, oh my god, here's the next problem. Is going to be what that tag plays like.
Insurmountable.
But it's going to be from Doomsday, and they got to go.
Okay.
Because by the way, in this movie, that would feel like the end of the movie, but no, them having that problem that Reed couldn't fix, or it came on him too quick for him to do anything, and all they can do is evacuate. They can show us a version of that in 2 minutes.
Okay, Ian, let's talk beyond Fantastic Four. Let's talk Doomsday. Let's talk Secret War. The popularity of this Thunderbolts movie, I think it's going to do well. Does Disney, Marvel, do they take the feedback from this weekend? They take maybe the box office, the way that this is starting to click for fans and the word of mouth. Do they start to take the Thunderbolts and give them a little bit more of a higher tier going into these huge ensemble movies alongside people that are already sold?
Listen, we've already seen enough in that little snippet to know what's coming. I mean, my expectation is in Doomsday, the FF are going to land. Obviously, the new Avengers are going there. Odds are Captain America's squad is showing up also.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a standoff, and then the FF come out. And more or less, I don't know that there'll be a fight, but there'll be some kind of come together or whatever.
Both Avengers teams meet the Fantastic Four in the landing. Okay, cool. That'd be cool.
From that setup, that's what I would expect. Maybe not, but that's what I'm thinking.
Does the Ant-Man come back?
Who cares? My thinking is, I mean, do they do it on the street? Do they do it in Central Park?
Sure.
I think Central Park. I know why I think that? Because think of the visuals of something happening in Central Park for how the original Secret Wars get started.
Yeah.
So
they all got blipped out in Central Park.
Yeah. So that's my thinking. That's what I expect. And then I got into a conversation actually earlier today. I was talking about this. There's a problem that I don't think there's any way around it by just the nature of doing the two Avengers movies back to back. You have that Infinity War Endgame comparison that's inevitable. If they, and I don't see it, I think they kind of have to. Listen, we know that whenever they do names of things, just like we already explained with Thunderbolts, they do the name and then they turn it on its head in some way with the MCU, right? But my personal expectation, knowing the comics, is I still think that this movie has to end with, all right, incursions are happening. Incursions that we learned in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, of these universes kind of crashing into each other, and one universe has to be taken out, or the other one, or they both get destroyed, right? So either two get destroyed or one gets destroyed. And ultimately, there shouldn't be the potential to destroy everything.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, Doom actually ends up taking control and pushing it all together into this one world. That on the one world you can travel geographically into, and each part of the world represents a different universe.
And that's Battle World.
And of course, yes. So the expectation is that Secret War, where they're on the Battle World, and that's the next movie. So the first movie, the Doom Doomsday is sort of setting that up. And here's my thing. The original plan was Kang Dynasty, right?
Sure.
Would have been Kang dealing with these incursions in whatever way, and whatever his dynasty was. I think, and it always would have ended. It was always the plan that at the end, Kang seems like so victorious, and Dr. Doom shows up and takes him out.
Sure.
I think that everything that happened with Jonathan Majors just made them. The events of Doomsday are going to be very similar to what Kang Dynasty was.
Multiple Dooms,
but I think Doom, either we see it or they just reference that he came in at the beginning of the movie. We see it, or by exposition we find that he came in and took Kang out.
Well, let's go back to Fantastic Four real quick. Do we see Doom in that movie?
So I'm going there.
Okay.
So that's what I think it's going to be with Doom. It begs the question of who and what Doom is, right? So the casting of Downey was it's weird. Obviously, it's possible they could do the Chris Evans looks like, Johnny Storm, and he also Captain America. I don't think they're doing that. I don't think you go into that like we just wanted the actor. I think they're doing one of two things. Either he actually is a Tony Stark variant. Doesn't mean his name is Tony Stark. It could be that on that Earth, they were raised in Latveria. Or he actually took the body of Tony Stark. To me, the latter is the way of explaining, classically Dr. Doom is disfigured, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you take that out of the origin, or do you actually have him take someone else's body? And knowing that the sacred timeline, has the Avengers, and that would mean something, is there a psychological advantage to taking the face of their dead friend,
I don't know. I'm still thinking that production-wise, because the previs and everything that's been down the road, we saw some artwork that looked like Marvel 1602, all this stuff that's been way down the road in production so far.
And that Doom ruling.
I think we're getting multiple Dooms, and I think that the Kang Dynasty stuff was already down the previs and production timeline,
and they shifted that over to Doom.
And that would tell me multiple Dooms, Downey being one of them.
Is multiple Dooms, and there might be, but at the end there won't be.
Oh no, there's only one Doom. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And I just want that scene where he and Richards are fighting, and the Hickman. That's my favorite.
So
that is my favorite. Where he says, where they fight each other, and he said, "Reed, Richards, you always thought you were better than me," and he says, "No, Victor, I always thought you were better than this." And it's like, damn, that's their friendship.
So you asked the question about, do we get Doom in Fantastic Four? I think we definitely get him in that tag.
Okay.
I would hope we would get. I mean, look, there's only room in the movie for so much, but I do think we're going to get several adventures, even if it's quick adventures, of the Fantastic Four as the Fantastic Four in that movie.
Yeah,
we're going to see them fight other people before they get to Galactus. It's not just going to be Galactus, which is pretty cool.
Because we have cool stuff like John Malkovich,
right?
We have our. Who I befriended through my brother is Paul. Please help me out here. Oscar-nominated actor Paul Walter Hauser, who's also on the cast list.
Cool.
He and my brother have been doing tag team matches together, and it's amazing. He's a sweet guy. I do not know who he's playing. I don't know his involvement in Fantastic Four whatsoever.
So my point is that the problem of Doom and Downey is if you put him in the movie other than as a tag, it's like, how do you not give him more screen time? Yeah. It might be. I mean, I hope he's at least referenced. I hope that they're not going to just be like, "Oh, Reed doesn't even know him," because
they need a history.
That's a major aspect of the character. So we'll see. I mean, would it be really cool for the Doom that's ruling everything to actually be from that universe? That would be cool.
Yeah, he also survived the incursion.
Yes. Cool. To me, that would be cool. Or maybe he sees it coming. Maybe that's the impetus for him then going from that, the incursion's coming, and then he just goes and takes over. I would love that if that's what it is. That he hasn't done it yet, that it's when it comes for his universe, that's what that spurs him on. To go like, oh, Kang's been doing this crap and it doesn't work for me. So we'll see.
Well, Ian, I think our next film together is Superman. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, Superman is before FF, isn't it?
Well, we got to figure out FF, Ian, because Marvel went out.
Comic-Con.
they put it on Comic-Con weekend, so we got to figure that
know.
out. So we got new shirts coming. We got all sorts of stuff we're bringing down to San Diego. And
I'm not sure yet what my Comic-Con plans are, so that will affect a lot of things.
Well, earlier today, I was on the phone with George just figuring out how to get the booth, the boxes, the comics, all this stuff down to the San Diego Convention Center. Now that I have a family that I'm also bringing separately to Comic-Con, we have our hotels. It's not adjacent to the convention center. It's closer to Broadway, which is fine. It's fine. But
what else are you in?
I think whatever. It's like 2 blocks from the train station. It's near the U.S. Grant, and it's fine. I like that it's removed enough from the convention center that we can have some family options, and I love Little Italy and stuff like that. But that being said,
options, that'll be nice.
Geekscape has grown, and not just my family, but Geekscape itself has grown. We now have comics, and all those boxes and things have to come down to the convention center Tuesday, because you're not going to get them close to the building on Wednesday. Yeah. And all that stuff has to be organized and figured out. And we got a lot to talk about. So when is Jonathan going to see Fantastic Four? Who knows? It's going to be tough, but maybe
my guess is, I mean, maybe Sunday after the con ends, you'll just go see it down there before you come back up.
I don't know, man. I still have to pick up the van and pack it and all that stuff. It's going to be rough.
My gut is that we won't see that one together. Listen, same thing happened. Captain America: First Avenger came out Comic-Con weekend. I saw it. I drove back. I remember going by myself to the ArcLight with my car still packed from San Diego. I drove straight to the ArcLight.
So it's on a Sunday?
Sunday afternoon, I got back straight in. And I got in and saw it by myself. I was like, all right, I got to go see it.
I have a car, a family, and a van to pack. So we'll just see how that works. I don't want to wait till Monday night, but no, I don't want to wait till Monday night. And I don't want to wait till Monday night Geekscape is to tell you guys all about it here on Geekscape. I appreciate y'all hanging out, talking Thunderbolts, talking a little Star Wars before that. Appreciate you if you're still listening to this on a podcast. I appreciate if you're still watching on video. I'm still loving the Geekscape. I'm going to give it one chill week before I come back next weekend. I'm going to take you guys with me to Comic-Con Revolution, interview some of the guests there. If you want to know what it's all about, Drew Selden was my recent guest about that. I know my friend Jeremy Miller and I are going to be hanging out at Pasadena Comic-Con. If you want to hear over an hour of Jeremy talking about his growing pains, stories, and more, we got that 2 episodes ago on the podcast. There's just so much stuff in the feed that's so great recently, and I love doing the show.
You never asked me about my growing pains, stories.
Do you want to meet Jeremy? Next time he's over for dinner, you guys come over. What is your growing pains story? I didn't know you had a growing pains story.
Everyone has growing pain stories. I mean,
oh no, I'm talking about the TV show. You're being silly with me, Ian.
You're too easy.
You're coming over and hanging out with Jeremy the next time, and you can tell him that silliness. You can try that joke on him, pal, because he's never heard that one.
Do you think not?
I would assume you have groin pains, but not growing pains.
Right.
From your Krav Maga. Are you allowed to kick each other in the groin?
What do you mean allowed?
Oh, never mind. They're no okay. You just whatever. Take out your opponent. Dude, thanks for doing this with me. This was a really good conversation. Sure. Thank you guys who've been hanging out long enough to, like Ivan and everybody, for hanging out in the chat. We'll be back with more Geekscape very soon. Subscribe, share it with your friends, leave the 5-star reviews. That really helps our visibility. And we'll be back with more Geekscape very, very soon, guys. Thanks a lot. Anything else to add, Ian?
No.
All right. Peace, everybody.